Hey, everybody. Today we're going to start our journey on learning more about marketing. I know you're excited. So, my first question is how do we choose what we buy? Imagine, you're doing well and you're going to buy a new vehicle, a new car. You might opt for in the upper right hand corner a Jeep Wrangler, maybe it's a Sahara, it's 50, $60,000. Or a Kia EV 7, 8, whatever number they're up to. And below that is a Rivian pickup truck. Probably costs even more, $60,000, $70,000. And in the lower right hand corner, there's a BMW 4 Series. Which one would you pick? Why? How about colleges? You guys are here. What went into that? Is it the cost? The education in terms of the different majors that are available? The location? I wanted to go far away from home as I didn't want to run into my parents. Extracurricular activities such as clubs or athletics. Was it the coaches that you met? People that you know at the school or people that you met during your visit. So there's a whole boatload of different factors. And most of us can identify those. But what I asked you wasn't what factors, but how do we make that decision? So, what I'm going to propose is that we come up with this idea of some overall value for the different options. And it doesn't necessarily mean monetary value. It really means, hey, what's something worth to us based upon how much we get and how much we have to give, right? And if you're an economics person, you might think a net utility or net worth. So it's some idea of the give and play between what we think, in marketing we call benefits and costs usually. Benefits are what we gain or get. Those are things that we want, that we desire. And most things aren't free, so we have to give things up, right? There's cost. You can think of it as a sacrifice. And so normally value is some function of benefits versus costs. I have it down there represented as a subtraction. It's not. We do it in our head, all right? And sometimes we calculate it, like maybe buying a new car or a new home, or whether we can afford to go take our family to Disney, which might cost $20,000, $30,000 to make a big trip out of it, and we want to know exactly what the cost is going to be. To things where, I'm just going to go get something to eat and I pick out what I want because it tastes good or what I always get and so forth. So there isn't one way to do it, but we have an idea of what the value is. Most of us have phones, iPhones, and probably if you have a smartwatch, it's an Apple. Why? Samsung makes good phones. I'm sure Pixel's pretty good. There's some other phones that probably give you almost as much function, cost a lot less. But to you, the iPhone has the most value. That's why we pick it. So, why is value important? Why am I talking about it for marketing? Well, let me ask you, if you like Gatorade and prefer Gatorade, do you ever go to the store and buy Powerade because you feel bad for them? Oh, poor Powerade. I feel bad for Coca-Cola, so I'm going to buy a Powerade. The answer is usually no. We don't do that. It doesn't mean sometimes we want something different and we're willing to try it, but we don't buy, things with less value because we feel sorry for them. All right? So the idea is, hey, when we make a decision, has the most value to us at that point in time is what we pick. So in marketing, each time there's a transaction, whether it's with consumers or businesses buying from other businesses, there's a winner and everybody else is a loser. So marketing is all about providing customers with more value, however they figure it out, than the competition. And many times, we look at something new and we say, oh, that's kind of tempting, but I'm going to wait till the cost comes down. Or I know somebody else has it. or until they've improved it. So an option for us is always not to buy, to do nothing, just continue to doing what we've been doing. So benefits and costs, all right, drive value. So let's talk about benefits, all right? So what's the main benefit of a car? Most people are going to say, oh, it helps me get from point A to point B. I need to go to school. I need to go to work. I need to go see my friends. I need to go shopping. I need to buy things, and so forth. All right? So we call those functional benefits. In that the real value comes from it. It helps us do something. We have some goal or objective. It doesn't have to be something that's really higher order. We could be in class and we're going to talk to the person next to us because we're bored, right? But we buy things before what they do for us. So when you get your first place after graduating and you have a job and you need to hang some artwork and you have this nice new condo you're leasing and you're allowed to put holes in the sheetrock, you're probably going to need to buy a drill, right? To be able to put in the anchors to hold the artwork, whatever you're going to put up on your wall. What kind of drill are you going to buy? You go to Home Depot, there's like 1,000 drills. And they go anywhere from like $50 to probably $500. $500 for a professional person, $50 for a regular homeowner. Which one are you going to buy? Odds are you're going to buy a relatively inexpensive one because you only want to drill because you want to hang the artwork. All right? You're not going to put your drill in a holster and go out at night and say, hey, do you want to see my really nice drill? I don't think so. Okay? So those are functional benefits. Now, the second type we call psychosocial benefits. All right? And that's the idea that it increases our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, or how we think other people will perceive us. So for cars, right, a functional benefit, if that's all you cared about, maybe buy a Honda Civic or a Nissan Rogue or some relatively, or a Toyota RAV4, a relatively inexpensive car that, all you really want to make sure is it's reliable, inexpensive, and gets you where you want to go. But of course, the cars that most people want to own are BMWs or Teslas or Audis or big Ford, 150 trucks, Cadillac Yukons, right? Suburban, big, family vehicles, right? Why? Well, one reason is the idea that, hey, it makes us feel better about ourselves, right? Or other people will view us, more positively, right? So products also say something about us. They're symbolic. Especially the more they're visible, they're more public products that people can see. And nowadays with social media, more and more types of products are seen by other people. So it's important. Now, the third way that we can classify benefits are called experiential benefits. So, yes, they're emotional and so are psychosocial benefits, but they're more based on kind of our emotions about how they make us feel, all right? So, because we're sensual beings, all right? We can sense the environment and we're emotion. Our emotions have a huge impact on the decisions we make, right? Think about it. So, if I had asked a class, what car do you want to buy if I gave you $50,000, $60,000, a few people would have picked really fast cars, right? The cars that go fast. Why? Because they like to go fast, because of that sense, that feeling, right? Think about food. How do we pick our food? Yeah, nutritional value is important some of the time, but not all the time. No, we pick food by how it tastes to us. We pick our clothes on how not only do we think our psychosocial benefits of how we look, but how they feel on our body, all right? And when we move and do things. All right, so products have those three types, potentially those benefits. And one brand can have all three of those, right? For example, originally Teslas were popular with people who had a lot of money. The original Tesla S's and so forth were 60, 70, 80, $100,000. So people who had the money bought them. Why? Could be psychosocial benefits, because they were saying, hey, look, I care about the environment. We're green, we care. All right? And then other people bought them because functional benefits might help me save some money. I don't have to keep pumping gas into the vehicle. It's a lot less expensive to charge it, and I can afford to put a charger in. And then the other thing about electric cars, most of them, especially about the Teslas and other ones, they're fast. They're faster than a gasoline engine. Think about it. When you press your foot on the gas has got to get sent, more gas is to be sent to the engine's got to explode it, and things have to turn around, the pistons, all that stuff goes to the drivetrain and your transmission, and then finally your wheels turn. It happens really fast, but not as fast as turning on the lights. So electric motors are a lot faster than gas motors. So they're fast as heck. So if you like to go fast, especially accelerate, you might buy an electric car, you might buy a Tesla. So usually, different types of products have a combination. Another example would be sunglasses. All right, why do we buy certain sunglasses? All right, we can go to Walmart and buy a pair of perfectly functional polarized sunglasses that will protect our eyes. Functional benefits. May not like the way they look. A lot of sunglasses, a good pair of sunglasses cost anywhere from $80 to a couple $100. Designer ones, right? Whether they're Ray-Bans, Oakleys, all right, Polo, all right, all the different brands that are out there, Maui Jim, right? Because, hey, they make us feel good about ourselves. We think we look more attractive. Other people will think we're classier, and so forth. And then, how they fit and feel on our face and our head, and how comfortable they are with wearing for a long time, and how much, they wrap around. That stuff's important too. So again, many products, many brands out there have some combination of benefits that appeal to maybe the same people, but oftentimes different people. Now, costs. What do we give up to get stuff? Well, the first one that everybody understands is money, or I'm going to put things of value, because you can trade things in. You can barter, all right? You could trade your time for stuff, all right? But you give something up. If you volunteer to do something for an agency or a company, a nonprofit, you're giving up your time to get a good feeling, all right? The other thing is time, right? You just can't snap your fingers and get a product. Now, why has Amazon done so well? Partly because they deliver, right, for a relatively low cost. If you order every day, it's still only going to cost you whatever they're charging now, $140, $150. All right, and then, as you have a product or you need a product and you're looking to replace it, the longer you take to get it, the more you have to go without it. So, it's not much fun to have a broken washing machine and you got to do your wash at the laundromat when you're used to doing it at home. And then last is this idea of physical, mental, or emotional effort. How much effort we put into. And you can see the upper right-hand corner. These are the slides I use for the on-ground courses. Hey, as a college student, end of the year, end of the semester, it's before the holidays, you have some money, remarkably. You certainly have time. You're all done with your exams and you have a few days before, let's say Christmas. How many of you want to go to the mall with all the big crowds and fight for looking for products for, different people you need to buy gifts for? Probably don't. All right? So physical, mental, emotional effort. We have brands that we like, we're happy with. When a new brand comes out, do we put in the effort to read all about it to see if it's better or not? Usually not, unless it's really important to us. So what I was saying was it's often easier to keep, doing the same old thing. And in life, we have a lot of learning curves. And they're expensive. And a learning curve is if you play a sport or have some activity you like to do, and remember when you were young or you're learning how to do it, and think about where you are now if you're a freshman, if you're playing athletics and you're on a team, and how good you have to get between now and in the future to get playing time. So, there's a big cost in terms of our time and effort for learning new things. And these resources are relatively finite, meaning, hey, we only can, what else do we have? We have things that people will give us other things for because they like the stuff we have: money, diamonds, gold, time. Okay? We only have a certain amount of time on this earth to get things. And then, at the end of the day, we only have so much effort. And we like to spend our mental and physical and emotional effort on things that we enjoy. We want to, not things we don't. So these are finite. Okay. So now we're going to go through a definition of marketing. This is from the American Marketing Association. I'm going to read it to you. I would just want to expose you guys to it, but I don't really like the definition. I'll explain why in a minute. So, the American Marketing Association says marketing is the activity set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. 2017. Marketing is the activity, a set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. Why don't I like this definition? It's not that it's wrong. It's not very illuminating, unless you already know what marketing is. And it tries to cover everything in marketing, so it's too long. So what we're going to do next is look at really what are the parts that make up marketing, and we'll come up with a simpler definition of marketing, at least that I happen to like.